Those who control the language control the narrative. Let's talk about why words matter on As Smith Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me is Barrett McNabb. So, the language we use matters. Vermont Department of Health put up a Facebook post. Many families and students are getting ready for the new school year. Equity in the classroom is an essential piece of productive and healthy learning environment. When talking about family, it is important to use terms that cover the many versions of what a family can look like. Use child or kid instead of daughter or son.
Yeah, I have some heartburn on this, honestly. There's this smothering effect that I feel that government involvement in language manipulation has. I mean, we keep changing the dictionary on what different words mean and what words are fair and not fair and things like that. But when I saw this Facebook post on the daughter or son, I really. Why did you waste the amount of money that you spent to create this graphic and to create posters and rules and regulations for the school system to do this? This just seems like a monumental waste of resources.
Yeah, and the last thing I want them used for is the government to be involved in yet another thing they have no business being involved in. I mean, it's the Department of Health, like. There are other Facebook posts involving put on bug spray because diseases carried by mosquitoes can cause encephalitis. That's relevant.
That is relevant.
But, this not relevant to the Department of Health.
Well, I mean, let's go back to this first bullet. Use child or kid. Okay, that's interchangeable, but instead of daughter or son, what if I want to be specific and talk about something an activity that they're in, or I want to, let's just say that I have, one of each and they're in different grades and I want to differentiate between the grade. My son is in second grade and my daughter is in kindergarten, instead of my child is in second grade and my child is in kindergarten.
Right.
My other child.
Right. Well, also, if my mother were to refer to me as my kid and dropping me off, there was probably an argument in the car on the way over.
Right.
It sounds a little more aloof.
Well, this is just it's pushed on you, and kids aren't thinking of things like this. I mean,
they're not thinking about their gender terms or whatever. It's a suggestion by adults.
Daddy, I would really prefer you not call me your son. I'd really prefer you call me your kid or your child. Said no child ever. I mean, really.
Yeah. So, one thing that leftists love to say is they want conservatives out of their bedroom. Well, guess what? We want leftists out of our schools. We want leftists out of our kids' heads. Right. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, again, this is the government, and they're choosing which words are important, and they're ranking them. If you look at any of the new words that are added to the Oxford Dictionary or the Cambridge Dictionary or Webster's Dictionary and things like that, a lot of progressive terms are being continuously added. Now, some of them are just made up gibberish words that are going into pop culture, and then they get added to the dictionary.
Well, like the word woke. The first time I heard it, I'm like, that's not really a tense.
Right.
But, the left party, for a party that loves to play identity politics, why are you trying to gender neutral everybody? Because someone's gender, really, we mean sex. Someone's sex is a part of their identity. So why are you trying to remove it?
Right. Now, what's the second bullet here? I think it says, say, family members rather than household
members, because they're trying to include family that doesn't necessarily live in the household, which I don't really care about.
Yeah, I mean, when I
why
look
bother
at this,
mentioning it? Who cares?
exactly. I mean, family members, household members, honestly,
Whose feelings are hurt by that?
well, honestly, I've never heard somebody say my household members. So
Yeah,
this is
really.
this is a reinforcement of something that I don't really think exists. I don't think it's identifying a problem that doesn't exist.
Exist.
There's no problem.
Leftists love to do that.
I mean,
because
I say my family members. So but the graphic, you can see it's posted. It says say family members instead of household members.
or family rather than extended family. I'm like, okay. I'm from the South, so if I were to say extended family, that's like third cousin.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's kind of when I saw this.
And who's offended by that? It's like, I barely know you. Who cares?
That's kind of the point I would make as well. Is of the three bullets, the only one that is controversial in my opinion is the first bullet, but the other two are weird.
Yeah, it's like, why are you making this?
The
an
left
issue?
is weird in doing this. I mean, so I would always say my family members, than household members, and I would always say my family. In fact, I have probably never said my extended family.
Yeah,
for anything before.
That's just weird. But the Department of Health needs to stick with their job. Stick in your lane. Do the encephalitis stuff. School should just do education. Where I don't want to be inclusive is at the bottom of the world education tier. I want to be included in the world's top tier education system. And so
well, that's absolutely. I mean, when you look at what you spend your resources on, and a lot of times people credit this with illegal immigration. What are we spending our nation's resources on? Citizens versus non-citizens and things like that. But let's just talk about time, right? Let's just talk about spending time on something. And this is a waste of time to create a graphic where there's not a problem. I think you would just call this a nothing burger. But it was important enough for Vermont to do this, and so I would rather spend that time learning reading and writing and arithmetic and getting our test scores up. I mean, if you look at around the country, there people are touting that 29%, let's just round that to 30%, people are at or reading at their grade level or reading. I like to look at it the opposite way. That means 70% or 71% people can't read. That is a more shocking.
80.
Yeah, well, that's a more shocking statistic. If you talk about who can't do it versus who can, you have to make people do the mental gymnastics to figure out who can't do it, and so just by leading with the shocking amount of people that are at, or actually that are way below their grade level, is problematic.
And before you recommend doing certain things, changing things to make it progressive, maybe look at places that aren't doing it. And, okay, are they performing better or worse than we are? Oh, they're performing better, but they're not doing that crap that you're suggesting. So maybe don't do the progressive stuff. But, silly, senseless stuff just make the adults seem silly and useless, and you lose credibility. You lose authority. And on top of that, teachers don't have the authority to discipline their kids in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about taking a 2x4 and slapping the kid on the wrist every time they don't do their work. But if they can't even, they don't even seem to have the authority to send them to timeout or send them to the principal's office for being disruptive. So you remove the authority to discipline. You make their language super silly. They're not going to do the work. The teacher's going to say, okay, class, let's turn to page 76. And if the kids every single kid in the class doesn't feel like doing it, then they're not going to do it, and it's going to be a chaos. And guess what? That's what the left once.
Right. I mean, and plus you see all these videos. We're not going to show any, but you can just do the research yourself. All these videos of teachers that are pulling cell phones away from people, while they're trying to teach class, and the students are beating up the teachers. I mean, so this is where you have that lack of discipline. There was a guy playing a Nintendo Switch, and a teacher grabbed it.
Who on earth lets their kid
killed
take
her.
a Nintendo to school? It starts with the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw this inclusive language for families post by Vermont, and that is just a waste of time and a waste of resources, because a graphic designer, has had to come up with it
and make themselves important.
But still just makes them look silly. And we saw this, and we wanted to bring it to you. So thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.